Hi everyone and welcome back. Today on my channel is another experiment. I tried calendar blocking for 30 days. I heard good things about this productivity/planning method and decided to give it a go. I did it once several years ago for just one day and it felt ridiculously productive. Did it work the same way for 30 days or was that completely useless? If you want to know, please keep on watching. Let me tell you a couple of words about my setup. I did this experiment while I was between jobs, which means that it might be very difficult when I'm going to get back to work and I have a big chunk of my day at the office or working from home. However, I still wanted to give it a go and see whether I will be productive, whether I will be able to do some projects that I planned for this time. I created a similar setup that I have for work. I mentioned it in one of my videos. I would link it somewhere on the screen and in the description for this video. So I do have a document in Notion with the things that I would like to do for a week and with an inbox of all the things that I would like to get to sometime in the future. That works pretty well for me, and I decided to combine that with calendar blocking. So for me, having a list of things that I would like to do in a week is one thing, but calendar blocking works to precisely plan or carve the time in my schedule to do these things. While approaching this, I also looked at what other people were doing. I did it somewhere in the middle of my experiment when I started bumping into certain issues. And the thing is that a lot of people who were talking about calendar blocking, they just show you how to block time on your calendar. That's not the problem. While doing things, I came up with a bunch of challenges/questions that I was trying to figure out. My first question was, how much time and which activities do I block throughout the day? Say, if I'm awake for 16 hours a day, do I block all 16 hours? Do I also block the rest 8 hours to sleep? How do I approach this? I decided to block working time, so from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I wasn't working, so I could dedicate some of the time in the day to do certain things and probably keep my evenings free. I know that when I'm back to work, it's probably going to be the other way around. I will be mostly time blocking the time before 8 and after 6. For the weekends, I only blocked 4 to 5 hours of my time and left the rest free. The next question was, what do I do with my scheduling when something urgent happens? In my case, I was waiting for the visa, and I knew that the moment this is approved and I can pick it up, I have to go and pick it up, and that will probably take around 3.5 to 4 hours, which is pretty much half of my day. And what do I do with all the things that I scheduled? In this case, it's very important to be flexible. In the end, it all goes down to prioritization. Not everything on your calendar would be super important to do. Maybe certain things you really can just leave out. You can perhaps take time from some other blocks. So you need to have an idea of what you're going to do with your time-blocked day so that your life doesn't feel like it's falling apart. The next question, which popped up pretty quickly, is, how do I estimate things correctly? I know that there are certain tasks that I would like just to spend time doing, for instance, read for an hour. But certain things you would like to complete them. In my case, I had a silly chore. I wanted to wash the windows. And I put a 30-minute block in my calendar, and it ended up being a 90-minute block. I wash my windows perhaps twice a year, so it would be nice to just get it over with. In this case, I obviously continued a little bit into my lunchtime. It wasn't the end of the world, obviously, but that question of underestimating my time popped up way too often. And I'm still, after 30 days, trying to figure out the correct way of estimating that. Perhaps it might be good before starting this experiment, just checking how much time each task does. Next question was, is it better to have a larger time blocks in my calendar or the smaller ones? Would it work better for me to work on one big thing or to just schedule a bunch of small things and get it over with? I guess there is no right answer in here. Certain days really require bigger chunks of time. For example, if I dedicate time to create these videos, I would probably film and edit and post scheduled videos in one day. I know that certain things are on my calendar as reminders. I need not to forget about them. Another approach there is to block a bigger chunk of time and bundle things together for things that require you the same mental capacity or the same locations. Create a block of tasks when you go outside because it doesn't make sense for you to go outside several times in the day. While I was trying certain things and see what works for me better, I have made a bunch of mistakes, and let's talk about them for a moment. Well, I wish in my research I actually went straight into the mistakes people made when calendar blocking rather than trying to figure it out on my own. Because the mistake number one is not allocating any breaks or rest time. When you have, especially if you decide to plan the whole week and you have the whole wall of things that you have to do, it might make you overwhelmed and anxious really quickly. Do not forget to plan in the breaks. You can have just a free space between your calendar blocks, or you can plan in the break into the task itself. So for instance, if you know that the cleaning will take you 2 hours and then you would like to have 30-minute break in between, then you will schedule 2.5 hours. Another thing that relates to breaks is to plan in some buffer time. You could use it for breaks, you could use it for overtime, so that you don't get super stressed that you are not on top of your day. So the thing is, we're not robots. We could only do so much. Another mistake of mine was that I had a very difficult time estimating how much I can do within a day. Because I thought in my head things were pretty clear, and usually when they're clear, it kind of translates into the idea that I can do them fast. Not necessarily the same thing. So we're not robots. We can only do so much. So please be kind to yourself. If something doesn't fit into one day, it's okay to move it to the next day. Of course, you have to put things on your calendar that are recurring. Certain appointments that happen regularly, or you really have to do them, you have to put them on the calendar first, put all of these things in, and the rest, if it doesn't fit into your day, just move it to the next one. It's fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. At the end of the day, it's only a method. If it doesn't work, you can actually drop it. People say that you should treat the time blocks that you put in your calendar as appointments, as if you have an appointment with your colleague or friend and you really cannot move it. So you kind of have to be present, and that's the whole idea of that. I think in theory, it's a cool idea, but in practice, not all the things on your calendar should be treated like appointments because they don't all have the same priority and the same weight in your life. Certain things you might quite quickly understand are not as important, and you can just remove them from your calendar altogether. You don't really have to do them at all. So I would say if you want to try it out, see if treating all of them as appointments works for you. It didn't really work like that for me. Not at all. Another mistake that relates to the breaks/buffer time is that I somehow never planned any time to make food. So that was a little bit silly. So certain things happen in your life and you really have to accommodate that. The next mistake is that I did not separate the tasks that need to be done in full, like my story with cleaning windows, or the things that just require certain time to be done, say, daily. I do think it's also important for you to perhaps mark them with different colors so that you know that this needs to be done in full, and if you can't, then you need to either carve some time from another block or just will have an idea of how to deal with that. And the last mistake that I would like to talk about is that calendar blocking is essentially a planning method. If you really like to use calendar and if it disciplines you, it's great, but it doesn't really make you do things. It makes you more organized. You have an overview of what needs to be done. You have an overview of how much time you dedicate to each task. It's all great. You also have an overview of how much free time you have left. But none of that actually makes you sit down and do the work. And that is not essentially a mistake, but that's something that I found rather difficult. And honestly, I have no idea how to deal with that. Unfortunately, I don't have this magic silver bullet solution for everyone, and I don't know the secret of how to just get yourself to do things. I'm sorry. Okay, let's move on to something more positive, the benefits of the method. The whole planning thing makes me more intentional. It made me more disciplined. And therefore, it actually got me to do things, at least in the very beginning of this experiment. Being more organized led to the fact that I got things done. which made me feel much better about myself. And I think that's the prime reason what I would recommend everyone to try the system, because if it works, it really works well. And the third thing is I block no social media time on my calendar, obviously, and actually spend a bit less time on my phone scrolling through social media feed. I would like to finish this video with tips that I would like to give you if you would like to try that. This is probably the most useful section of this video. Okay, so number 1, take it easy. Be ready that things may not go the way you planned. They might take more time. Certain things will come up suddenly and then you'll need to shuffle things around. It's all fine. Do not plan every second, put in some wiggle room, and it will work out much better. Decide up front what time and how much time do you want to block in your calendar. For certain people, it works better when every single second and every single activity is in their calendar, and some other people really don't need to put brush my teeth in their calendar. Try it out and see what works better for you. Remember to plan in rest, breaks, and buffer time. This could be a part of your time block, say at the end of it, or this could be just like white spaces between the blocks in your calendar. It might be a good idea to observe how much time the activity takes. So what I didn't do it in advance. So I blocked some time in my calendar, and when that changed, in reality, say it wasn't 3 hours, but 4, I just changed that block in my calendar. So perhaps if I would look at my previous week, I would see that, oh, actually, I was doing this for 4 hours. In my experience, calendar blocking worked best for the activities that I just wanted to do for a period of time. Say, if I wanted to do a workout for an hour, I could easily fit it into 1 hour. With things that I had to do in full and I couldn't estimate them properly, it wasn't working as well. So that will still take me time to adjust. And that can become a source of frustration. Do not plan weeks and weeks in advance. Even 1 week can feel pretty overwhelming on your calendar. What I was doing, I put all the recurring events or things that I have already planned, say some trips or a friend's visit or whatever, I put them in my calendar, and the rest I was planning maybe a day or 2 in advance. Next tip, batch similar things together. If you plan to go outside and you need to pick a parcel, do the groceries, shopping, and send a letter, it would probably save you some time to do them together, and you can as well put them in the calendar as 3 things next to each other. Find out what works better for you, to have one big chunk for one particular task a day, or perhaps several small blocks that you could use, for example, as the starting block. Often when you start doing something, you get into that and then you actually get to do more. Say if you plan something for 15 minutes, maybe then you will go on and do the whole hour of that. For example, when it comes to cleaning, some people find it easier to clean everything in one go and just dedicate a big chunk of time once a week to cleaning. Well, for other people, it's easier to clean, say, 15 minutes a day here and there. And so it feels just, less overwhelming. Figure out what works for you. And the most important tip, if you try it out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, after that period of time, if you feel stressed and overwhelmed, if you feel that your life have been ruled by a calendar and you cannot take this anymore, seriously drop it. Don't do this. This is a method that works for some and really doesn't work for others. If you are in constant stress and you're constantly thinking, oh my God, what's the next thing on my calendar? It's not really worth it. Just stop. Do something else instead. All right, guys, that was it for the calendar blocking. What do you think? Have you ever tried that? Did it work for you? Do you want to give it a go? I definitely would like to continue when my work starts and see how that's going to go. And it would be super easy for me to drop it if it doesn't work. I don't want to stick to a method just because I have planned all my life around it. It should be the other way around. These things should help, and if they don't, we should not use them. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. I post videos every Monday, and I will see you next week. Cheers.